You're listening to Innovation for Alpha, where we explore everything at the intersection of healthcare innovation and finance. Through our discussions and interviews, we keep you informed and educated about healthcare innovations, next-level venture investing, and everything involving the combination of the two.
Hello, everybody. It's Tobin Arthur, your host for Innovation for Alpha. And today I am joined by Dr. Kimberly Hutchison, who hails from Portland, Oregon, OHSU. She's a sleep medicine physician and has a great new business and really an affiliated business that we'll talk about. Welcome, Dr. Hutchison, to the show.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here, I think. We'll see how things go.
Yeah, we'll try to treat you nicely, and especially nice since you come from the Northwest. We're huge fans of Portland and OHSU and everything about it. So we won't make you cry today. It's not an Oprah show.
All right. Very good. This is no Shark Tank.
No Shark Tank at all. So tell me, let's start off. We've chatted a little bit before the show started, but give us your background, your training, and then just a little bit of the migration to Portland.
Sure. So I'm a trained neurologist. So I started out my career being fascinated with the brain and actually levels of consciousness. But I didn't want to do psychiatry. So I went to sort of more of the hardwiring, did that for a while, and then came back to levels of consciousness and doing a fellowship in sleep medicine. So that's where my passion has been, and most of my career focus. However, I do still do some general neurology as well, because I really like the variety of having just basic neurology and staying up on some of the brain things. So I was at Vanderbilt. That's where I finished my training. I was on faculty there for a while. And then my husband and I moved overseas to an island called Saipan, where I worked for a year, and I actually still work. I started a small, sleep and neurology practice there because there was none on the island. Like I said, I think I've been an entrepreneur all my life, but I've been trapped inside of the brick building of an academic, medical center. But I did start this small clinic out of need. And then after we moved back, and, we were there for my husband to do indigent care. And then his job, ended and someone else filled it. But mine, there was no one to do that. So I have continued working earliest telehealth that existed back in 2008 to the island. So that I digress. But once we did that, we thought, hey, we can do anything now. And so we knew that we didn't want to spend our entire careers in Nashville. So we headed to the Pacific Northwest and chose Portland, and have not looked back since. So it's been a great place to raise our family.
That's great. Well, and anybody that's been to Portland would understand why it's such a great spot. And sleep is a particularly interesting. I was excited to talk to you today because sleep medicine, we've got a big audience of sleep medicine physicians in the Angel MD community. And it's obviously a hot topic broadly because everybody is, I think, increasingly aware of the importance of sleep. Maybe 10 years ago, we were less aware, but now it's everywhere. It's it's on our watches are monitoring us, the Oura rings, and you name it. It's monitoring our sleep. Oh, there you go.
Got my Fitbit on.
So talk a little bit about SomnoSeal, and then we'll talk about the education, the community you're building, as well as a complement to that. But tell us about the inspiration for SomnoSeal. As you mentioned, you're kind of an entrepreneur by DNA. So how did this come about?
Great. So, SomnoSeal is a unique product. There's nothing like it on the market. And I've been in sleep for 15 years now. And when I was, I would see patients over and over that were suffering from, problems getting comfortable with their CPAP machine. So anyone out there, whether you're a sleep physician or not, you've heard of a CPAP machine and you probably know someone that struggled with it. That's just part of the experience, unfortunately. And when I started in this business, I thought, over the next decade, we'll come up with, the next best thing instead of the CPAP. Well, here we are 15, 16 years later, still working on the CPAP. And the experience has improved, and we do have some alternatives that are gaining traction. I'm a big fan of oral appliances and things, but CPAP is still our gold standard treatment, and it does work the best when patients can use it. So we spend a lot of our time as sleep doctors helping people to be more successful with their CPAP machines, and especially early in their CPAP experience, because if you can get someone comfortable using their machine in the first 3 weeks, they're much more likely to be still using their machine a year, 5 years down the road. And so my business is just to sort of improve the lives of sleep apnea patients in general. And so one of the primary reasons, there are about 40 to 45% of patients that don't continue to use their CPAP once they've been started on it, despite all of the health problems that we know that are associated with untreated sleep apnea. And one of the primary reasons that people quit is because of discomfort with the mask. And one of the primary discomforts is with air leaks and dry mouth with the mask. And so when CPAP first came out, they had this cute little, nose only mask. But what happened is that people's mouths would blow open, either from the CPAP air itself, or because a lot of people are just mouth breathers. So mouths would open, air would blow out the mouth, cause dry mouth, noise, and as well as the machine not being as effective if you're losing that pressure. So over the years, a number of things have been developed to try to combat this issue of mouth breathing. The first one being the full face mask. So that was the CPAP mask manufacturer's solution. They can charge more money for a bigger, fuller face mask. So that's what they did. But these big masks weren't comfortable for people, and they tended to leak more because there's just more surface area, and people had a harder time sleeping on their sides. And they just were, when we look at studies showing effectiveness of CPAP masks, those that use the smaller nose only masks are more successful. And we know that. But if you have this mouth breathing problem, then the companies say, oh, here's this full face mask. Just use the full face mask because everyone makes, more money on that. And that's just the known solution. But a lot of people don't tolerate that. And I feel like that's one of the contributors to why people are not compliant long-term, because they don't like that mask. So let's say you don't want to wear the CPAP mask. The next thing, okay, here's this chin strap. So they throw a chin strap at you. Well, they're already dealing with all of these straps and this mask and the hose. And now you're saying, put this other really tight strap around, not just around your chin and ears, but around your whole head, because that's what's required to hold your chin up. But even during that time, air starts blowing and sputtering out of your lips because your lips aren't sealed. So what ended up happening is that almost every day that I was in clinic, I would hear from someone that would say, I can't use the nose mask because my mouth blows open, but when I try the full face mask, I can't tolerate that, and the chin strap doesn't actually work, and now I'm stuck. And then over the years, people will come in, well, now I'm duct taping my mouth closed at night. And that's obviously not recommended. Right. There are some sort of, quote, safer mouth tapes that are existing out there. So that's also, an opportunity. However, when people are talking to you about how they have to buy the dollar store duct tape instead of the real duct tape because it doesn't pull their lips off in the morning, but now they're worried about drinking the chemicals associated with the dollar store duct tape adhesive, that raises an eyebrow. And then the straw that broke the camel's back on this impetus for me was that a patient of mine said, every night she straps a maxi pad over her mouth when she goes to sleep at night to try to block the air from coming out. Wow. And so, again, this is a daily phenomenon. Anyone in the sleep field will recognize immediately what I'm talking about. And so we have a program at OHSU called the Biomedical Innovation Program, and they give out very small funds to help physicians on the ground to build, to work with engineers and try to solve some of these problems. So that was how I got my start. That was back in 2018.
Wow.
And we came up with a bunch of different types of solutions to this problem. And then we decided to choose the simplest one first, that would require sort of the least mouth fitting and things, and see if it worked. And so that was the development of the SomnoSeal. So I'll show it to you here from anyone who's watching the video. But it's a small, piece of silicone that fits in the mouth that goes between your teeth and your lips. So just inside the surface of your mouth. And one of its advantages is that if your jaw slacks a little bit, which tends to happen when you're sleeping, the SomnoSeal blocks air from escaping out of your mouth.
Okay.
And so it's a very unique mechanism in that it doesn't require completely like holding your mouth shut, which causes a lot of claustrophobia for people. Right. It allows you to relax, but it also doesn't allow that air to blow out. And so you can be more successful with some of the smaller nose-only masks. So my passion is to help these CPAP users, but it can also be used for snoring, or even with oral appliances or things that some of the newer devices, PAP devices that go in the nose only. Anytime where you need to prevent air from leaking out of the mouth, the SomnoSeal could be a solution.
I love it. And when is this going to be available, and initially where?
So initially it's going to be on the somnoseal.com website. We're going to be doing an e-commerce launch in the next couple of months. So we're just putting the finishing touches on our packaging. We're going to have a starter kit, which is going to include a couple of different sizes, as well as like a to-go pouch and a little stand for cleaning. And that's going to sell for $39.95. And then we recommend that you replace the SomnoSeal every 90 days, which is the same as your when you replace your mask for your CPAP. But and then that's going to sell for $19.95, and that would be just the seal itself. Once you know what size is yours, and you don't need the other accessories. So that should be available by, I'll say, November 1st.
Okay, great. Well, we'll keep up to date with that and publish when that is available. And I also want to touch just briefly on, we talked a little bit earlier about, your passion for educating people, and you talked about the compliance being low, and, usually there's, like any habit, it's those first couple of weeks that are critical. Talk a little bit about where you've taken that passion for education and your vision a little bit for this community of probably sleep experts and sleep patients on both sides of that.
Yeah, well, I've always been an educator. So my entire physician career, minus a couple of years, has been in academic centers because I'm very passionate and I've won a lot of awards on education. And I also get a lot of positive feedback from my patients themselves about the time that I took and the way that I've explained things to them and how it allows them to be more successful. So when I was out working with communities of sleep apnea patients regarding the SomnoSeal, it became really obvious to me that there was a huge gap in supporting patients with the proper education early on in their CPAP experience. So with the blowing up of the digital education during COVID, and for me, over time, sort of really trying to come up with ways that I could reach more people rather than just this one-on-one behind the closed door of the doctor-patient relationship. Like the two of those things meeting really blossomed into this idea of, I'm going to create a course, a getting started course for patients so that they can become better educated with the right information, so that they can have more success when they get started with their machine. And they can do this at their time, on their schedule. They can do it at home. They can rewatch it 100 times if they need to. And that was the birth of CPAP 101 Start Here, which is this online course that walks people through, mask selection to mindset work to troubleshooting tips for, primary CPAP problems. And I'm even including a guided CPAP oriented meditation for people to sort of help adjust to that air and once they get their mask on. So it's really fun to use my creative side and put some of my education background and my clinical background into something that I'm really hoping will fill a void that is currently causing much suffering in the world. And even companies that are supposed to do this work, whether it's the medical equipment company or the physician's offices and the providers themselves, it's hard to to train the staff that are giving out these machines in the correct information. I mean, how do you do that? And the turnover is huge. Right. Yet these people are holding the success of these patients in their hands. And so I can't believe, I just want to provide this service. I think it's going to help medical equipment companies. It's going to help providers. It's going to help patients because it's giving, it's allowing patients to sort of take some ownership and learn this material. Now, a lot of this information is online already. And so for an astute, web surfer, they can find a lot of this information, and a lot of the information is good. But what I'm doing is I'm packaging it into, 3 modules of, follow these steps. And by the end of this, you will go from sort of overwhelm and uncertainty to, confidence and success and feeling great with your new PAP machine. And then I'm also going to be offering a VIP version of the course where I'm giving live Q&As and support once a week, because even though you get the foundations, there's always something that's unique to the individual. And so I also like interacting with patients. I mean, I'm a physician, so I want that, that community feel and to be able to offer some of the one-on-one coaching. I'm not their doctor. I'm not giving them specific medical advice, but I am providing education and coaching so that they can be successful with their own tools.
Well, I love it. As you talked about, people can, do research and so forth, but the reality is most people don't have the tools to discern what's legitimate, what's not. And they're, they're coming to somebody who's a trusted expert to be their guide in this. So I love your passion around this, and I love the resources you're creating. It's really cool. And you can see how you can connect the dots here between the product and ultimately the education and the community that are going to evolve around these. These are very simpatico. You also represent what I oftentimes will describe as the very core of Angel MD. If I sometimes use a bullseye to think about the network, there's lots of people in Angel MD for lots of different reasons, but the very center of that bullseye are the physician entrepreneurs. And it's a unique group that have, these deep clinical backgrounds and have spent their time learning and training in medicine over the years. And now they're shifting because they see these needs of their patients and have the passion that you demonstrate, but they don't necessarily have the tools and the experience on the business side. And so a lot of what we try to do with Angel MD is connect them with the right resources and tools to navigate this entrepreneurial pathway and maybe zig a little bit less than zag from time to time. So we're excited to have you involved, and you'll be a great example and sort of testimony to see, how can we help this entrepreneur, this physician entrepreneur, navigate through this journey. So thank you, Dr. Hutchison, for spending time with us today, sharing just a little bit about the companies. We'll stay in touch with your progress, and as I mentioned, announce the launch when the product is commercially available here in a couple months, and just stay plugged into your journey. So again, thanks for sharing with us.
Yeah, well, I think now that we're done, I can say thank you so much. I really enjoyed being here. So great to be with your audience.
Great. Well, thank you.
See you again soon for the next episode of Innovation for Alpha. Make sure to go to Innovation for Alpha for access to prior episode links, show notes, and other valuable resources. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any investment decisions, please consult with a professional. This show is copyrighted by Angel MD Media, and written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.